Rain pounded against the tall glass windows of Michael Hartman's office, each drop echoing the chaos in his mind. The room, once a sanctuary of power and success, now felt cold and suffocating. His laptop screen was a battlefield of flashing red alerts, each line confirming the unthinkable: $2.9 billion gone in a matter of minutes. Years of ambition, strategy, and sleepless nights had been swept away by a faceless cybercriminal. Beyond his door, the building buzzed with panic. Phones rang off the hook, voices rose in urgency, and footsteps rushed through the hallways as employees scrambled for answers. The media was already circling like predators, ready to turn his downfall into a headline. Michael could almost hear the whispers of former rivals, savoring the news of his collapse. He leaned back into his leather chair, but there was no comfort left in it. His hands trembled as he tried to think, of strategies, of solutions, but his mind was a fog. How could he fight an enemy he couldn't see? How could he rebuild a kingdom stripped bare in seconds? The empire he had built from nothing now stood on the edge of ruin. It wasn't just money he was losing, it was trust, reputation, and the belief that he was untouchable. Staring into the dark, rain-streaked skyline, Michael felt a heaviness he had never known before. For the first time in years, the man who always had the answers was left with nothing but questions, and no clear way forward. The hallway outside Michael's office was quiet except for the soft swish of a mop gliding across the polished floor. Carlos, the night janitor, moved with steady, practiced motions, his worn uniform and tired eyes telling the story of countless late shifts. Beside him, his young daughter Sophia sat on a small folding chair, a notebook balanced on her knees as she worked through her homework. She hummed softly to herself, the sound almost lost in the stillness of the night. Michael's office door was slightly ajar, and from where Sophia sat, she could see him hunched over his desk, his face pale and drawn. The flicker of light from his laptop reflected in his eyes, but there was something else there, a deep sadness she didn't understand. Carlos noticed her glancing toward the door but said nothing, trusting her quiet nature. Michael barely registered their presence. The world outside his glass office walls no longer seemed to matter. But to Sophia, the scene was unusual. She had seen him before, always rushing, always confident, yet tonight he looked different, smaller somehow, as if the weight of the world had pressed him into his chair. Her pencil paused above the page. She didn't know what had happened, but she could sense it was something bad. She shifted in her seat, her curious eyes lingering on the glow of the screen, and though she said nothing, a quiet thought took root: maybe she could help, if only she knew how. Sophia hesitated at the doorway, clutching her notebook to her chest. The room felt heavy, almost like it was holding its breath. Michael didn't look up at first, lost in the glow of his screen, but when she took a timid step inside, the faint shuffle of her shoes drew his eyes. Her voice was small but clear. "Why are you so sad? Money can come back, but people can't." The word seemed to land somewhere deep inside him, cutting through the noise in his head. He stared at her, unsure how this little girl had managed to see what so many adults around him had missed. She stepped closer, her gaze wandering to the security camera monitor on the side of his desk. "I saw something last week," she said softly, pointing toward the paused footage. A man, he was sitting near the IT desk. He put something in the computer, like a little stick. Michael straightened, the fog in his mind lifting. "When did you see this?" he asked, his tone urgent but gentle. "Last Tuesday. He didn't work here." "I remember because his shoes were all muddy, and he kept looking around." Her innocent memory was like a spark in the darkness, something concrete in a sea of uncertainty. Michael's pulse quickened. What she had just told him wasn't small, it might be the first real clue to undoing the disaster. For the first time that night, he felt a sliver of hope breaking through. Early the next morning, the IT room buzzed with a tense energy. Michael stood with the head of cybersecurity, eyes fixed on the security feed as they rewound the footage. There he was, exactly as Sophia had described, a man in a baseball cap, glancing around before slipping a USB stick into one of the office computers. His movements were quick, calculated, and then he vanished down the hallway. The team froze the frame, zooming in on his face. The image was grainy, but it was enough. Within hours, they traced the intruder to a known cybercriminal who had been orchestrating high-profile attacks for months. Law enforcement was contacted, and the investigation moved fast. Pieces began falling into place: the malware, the sudden breach, the draining of billions. With the suspect in custody, a large portion of the stolen funds was recovered, along with crucial data that could protect the company from future attacks. But for Michael, the breakthrough was more than just a victory for his business. It was a reminder of how easily he had overlooked the quiet presence of those around him. Without Sophia's sharp eyes and her courage to speak up, there would have been no trail to follow, no chance of salvaging what was lost. As he left the IT room, relief washed over him, but so did a strange humility. The empire he thought only he could protect had been saved by the smallest, most unexpected voice in the building. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over the modest apartment building where Carlos and Sophia lived. Michael stepped out of his sleek black car, carrying 2 envelopes in his hand. His usual sharp suit felt out of place here, but he didn't care. Carlos opened the door, surprised to see his employer standing there. Sophia peeked from behind him, her eyes widening. Michael smiled gently and knelt so he was at her level. "I came to say thank you," he began. "You didn't just help save my company, you reminded me what really matters." He handed the first envelope to Carlos. Inside was a check large enough to clear all their debts and secure a better home. The second envelope he gave to Sophia. She opened it slowly, revealing a scholarship certificate with her name printed in bold letters. Tears filled Carlos's eyes, his voice breaking as he tried to speak. "Sir, this is too much." Michael shook his head. "It's not enough. You gave me something no money could buy, hope when I had none." Sophia threw her arms around his neck, and he hugged her back, feeling the weight of the past days melt away. As they stood together in the doorway, the sun dipped behind the horizon, leaving a warm afterglow that seemed to promise better days ahead. For Michael, it wasn't the billions recovered that mattered most. It was the reminder that true wealth lives in the kindness we give and the lives we touch.